benefits of off-site manufacturing are the quality. The buildings are built in a factory, so you get the quality control manufacture. So everything is square, it's watertight, it's just a very nice finish before it goes to site. And it's also not weather dependent. Labour-wise, it's nice and controlled. You know exactly what's happening, so it is a very good form of manufacturing a building, rather than having to fight the elements and getting to sites with the roads and everything else. It's just very controlled. The situation in the UK regarding off-site construction is we are lagging behind some countries in Europe. Their general consensus is they've accepted this method of construction with open arms, and they don't see it as a temporary form of construction or a temporary solution. They see it as a solution to the problem that can get to site, get it done, and it's there to stay. I mean, modular buildings and off-site buildings that give you the same warranties structural-wise as a traditional form of construction. And methods have moved on so far. We use the same materials, the same methods of putting it together. The only difference really is that the buildings are done in a modular form in a factory, partly finished, about 70% complete. Then they go to site, put together, and then it's completed. When it's finished, and especially when you're inside, you'd never know that it was a modular form of construction off-site, as opposed to a traditional one that's just grown on site. So, and it's just letting people be aware of the fact that this form of construction is probably the best thing that we've got, especially with the likes of the trades diminishing. You know, with the joiners, bricklayers, these people are just in decline, and we are not going to have these people to build the amount of buildings, houses, factories, offices that we need. I think a lot of it is general acceptance that this form of construction is one of the barriers. To be honest with you, I think that's probably one of them. And also the way buildings are designed, everybody's still designing it for a steel frame, traditional form of construction, or a brick, a masonry form of construction, which are not necessarily looking at a modular solution. You know, I mean, the volumetric form of off-site, there's an economy of scale that things like schools or a large office could be produced far quicker and at much less expense than trying to do that on-site. But obviously that starts at the design stage rather than when you're looking to appoint somebody to build that building. So it's just getting people into that frame of mind, and it really will, you know, make a big difference to how public money is spent, the way that the buildings behave, because you can incorporate everything within the building, so you can create an intelligent building, but at a much less cost, expense, and effort. I think off-site is a real solution to the housing crisis. Whether it's the larger companies that volumetrics that can really fire them out, produce an awful lot of homes, or whether it's the smaller companies who are going to be producing for the smaller sites. Again, the houses are going to be produced obviously in the factory, so you've got the quality control. You will be able to produce them at a set rate, taken to site at a set time. The house will be installed in a day, so you go from foundation to complete structure in a day, and then it's just finishing it off. I think one of the things that people really need to understand is the external finish of the building. If we can move away from a traditional brick-clad building and use all the materials that are now on offer and start having a wider, more varied landscape, then that reduces the need for certain trades, which is where part of this issue is. There aren't enough bricklayers to produce the houses, and start using things, you know, timber cladding, sheet materials, and stop just creating this massive brick jungles, and start creating something that says something about each community. and make a statement. There is a larger digital design element to it, because obviously it's all done before it goes onto the shop floor. So people are now moving into the BIM level of design, which is great, because then they've got one common form of design that then can be passed around from professionals to the manufacturers to the clients. So you can create a 3D. Some people are starting to look at virtual reality, so you can actually have a tour of your house while it's still on the screen, rather than with a drawing even, which is great, because then they can fully appreciate how their house, how their flat, the developer, how their building will look, and then they can make a tweak that they can see the effect it will have and get a full understanding of where the technology is. And to be honest, it's 21st century, we need to be embracing as much modern technology as we possibly can. Using a supply chain in off-site is, obviously it's the only way you can actually do it. I think there's a smaller challenge, because with everything being manufactured in your factory or factories, if you've got a few, the way that each supplier goes to the factory is already known. The routes the factory's been designed to take on each element. Where if you can imagine going onto an in situ site, each time there's going to be so many different elements to that particular site for the whole method of the construction. Where off-site is more, when we go to site, it's with your modular units being installed, and then the completion of them. So there are some challenges for your supply chain, but they are fewer than what you would have in a traditional form of construction. Because you haven't got large articulated lorries for all your steel frame and all your masses of concrete and masonry, because a lot of that is within the factory. You've already got your supply chain in place, so it's just a case then of programming that method to hit that particular project to get it to site on the day.